Hi, this is Douglas Macgregor, CEO of Our Country, Our Choice. And this afternoon we have as our guest on a return visit, Dane Wigington, who enlightened us in the past about chemtrails and the threat posed by these to both Americans' health and agriculture and the atmosphere. He's got some new material. Dane, do you want to tell us about what you've got that's new and what we should look for as we watch these videos?
It's part of our archival footage that conclusively proves jet aircraft are dispersing particulate matter at altitude, period. This is not condensation. We know that all commercial carriers and all military tankers are fitted with a high bypass turbofan jet engines, a jet-powered fan, nearly incapable of producing any, quote, condensation trails. The film footage we're about to see is, without question, a particulate dispersion from aircraft at altitude, and that's exactly what climate engineering operations are doing.
All right, well, let's look at the videos one after the other. And Dane, you can talk about specifically the climate engineering that we're watching.
This video contains some of the most compelling footage yet captured of the ongoing atmospheric aerosol spraying assault. Countless people ask me how we can prove that jet aircraft are spraying in our skies. Here's the answer: because we have up-close film footage of these jets spraying, turning on and off, period. That's the end of any debate on the matter. In the effort to awaken others to the critical climate engineering issue, if they refuse to accept what they can see with their own eyes, there's nothing more you can do for them. Move on to others that are ready to face reality. The greatest lie ever perpetrated on populations around the planet is the fallacy that the lingering, expanding jet trails we see in our skies is just condensation. It is not. Film footage like this proves beyond any reasonable doubt that what we are seeing in our skies are sprayed aerosol dispersions that are part of the ongoing global climate engineering solar radiation management assault. These programs are decimating Earth's life support systems. They're nothing short of omnicide for planet Earth. They must be stopped. Videos like this are the most exceptional of tools in the battle to reach a critical mass of awareness regarding the climate engineering issue. We must all use every tool at our disposal. Every day counts. This is Dane Wigington for Geoengineering Watch.
Very clear dispersions occurring there, Colonel Macgregor. And this is where, again, the fact that they're still attempting to deny what's happening in our skies from official sources is beyond criminal at this point.
Can you briefly talk about the chemical composition of the aerosols that are being sprayed so people understand what they're looking at?
What we know from testing: aluminum, barium, strontium, manganese, surfactants, polymer fibers, graphene, all of these elements highly toxic in and of themselves. Most people, Colonel Macgregor, know how toxic aluminum is for their system.
Yeah.
But when you combine all these elements, you get what's called synergistic toxicity, which increases the overall toxicity exponentially. We all have mercury in us from multiple sources: coal-fired power plants, amalgam fillings, and it's contaminating our seafood and so forth. When you combine mercury and aluminum, which all of us have in us now, the overall toxicity escalates. And we know this from peer-reviewed study, escalates as much as 10,000%. That's 100 times worse. So the lethality of what's being dispersed in our skies can't be overstated. And I'll end with this: two elements, polymer fibers and graphene, that is showing up in our precipitation and are named in climate engineering patents. Both these elements, they're used militarily for biological carrier platforms. That means to carry a biological from the clouds to the ground. Why is that in our rain?
Yeah, well, that's a very frightening prospect. Let's go on and look at the rest of these.
Video was captured over Nashville, Tennessee on December 20th, 2019. The three jet aircraft visible in this film footage are C-17 Globemasters. The only entities that possess these aircraft, C-17s, are military. What you see occurring in this video are U.S. military cargo tanker aircraft dispersing materials into the atmosphere. We're officially told by government agencies and by the entire science community that climate engineering operations are only a proposal. We are told that if climate engineering, geoengineering, solar radiation management programs were to be deployed as a last-ditch measure against the unfolding climate collapse, that it would be done with jet aircraft that would spray tens of millions of tons of reflective, toxic, heavy metal, and polymer particulates into the atmosphere annually. We're told this atmospheric spraying, if it were to be deployed, would look exactly like what we are already seeing in our skies. Yet we are told that what we are seeing, we are not really seeing. How long has the U.S. government been experimenting with and developing methods to spray particulates into the skies? For nearly 100 years, as this patent for artificial cloud creation from the 1920s reveals, and as the nearly 100-year-old biplane spraying demonstration makes clear. Even now, as our skies are so often crisscrossed with lingering, expanding emissions from jet aircraft geoengineering dispersions, sometimes covering the entire horizon, we're emphatically told by all official sources that climate engineering operations are, as stated earlier, only a proposal.
Well, you've obviously had some success now penetrating the public mind, because in Tennessee, the Senate at this point, at the state level, has been willing to pass some legislation. Could you talk to us about that?
Yes, they just did. It needs to go through the House as well. There's a number of other states behind that. We furnished materials to many of the state representatives. Geoengineeringwatch.org printed materials. So this issue is becoming all but impossible to hide, but it has already done irreparable damage to soils, waters, the atmospheric protective layers, the ozone layer specifically. Just spoke yesterday to the former NASA contract engineer that works directly for Geoengineeringwatch.org, metering UV radiation that's now reaching the surface of the planet. And we're getting UVC on the surface. So the UV spectrum is UVA at the top of the spectrum, UVB, UVC, and then X-ray. I think we all know how dangerous X-ray is. UVC is a DNA altering spectrum of UV radiation just above X-ray. Again, we're getting that on the surface now. The ozone layer is horrifically damaged. It's not being disclosed. The official UV readings we get, Colonel Macgregor, are fictitious. They're processed at a central processing center. They have no connection to reality. When people feel how hot the sun is on their skin, on surfaces, it's burning the Cambrian layer off trees that are exposed to the sun. It's frying insects, plankton. This is an existential threat by itself. Climate engineering is the single greatest factor destroying the ozone layer. None of this being disclosed.
Well, we'll go on and look at this last video, and then when it's over, talk to us about what we've learned from the Chinese on this subject that we were discussing earlier. And then we want to highlight some of the articles that are available. So let's go to this last video.
Rather, as already stated, climate intervention programs have long since been a lethal reality. For those that ask how such a conclusion can be arrived at with certainty, here's the answer. Because not only do we have a mountain of science and historical documentation to prove this point, we also have countless clips of film footage that are inarguably showing jet aircraft aerosol dispersions occurring, with the spray application being turned on and off during flight. This is not condensation. The sight of highly toxic heavy metals and chemicals being dumped into our skies and breathable air column should be unimaginably alarming for any that are even slightly awake. The sight of our once blue skies being turned completely white and obscured with a virtual blanket of toxic, sun-blocking climate engineering elements should shock any rational human being into taking immediate action toward the goal of exposing and halting the ongoing climate intervention insanity. When the endless list of consequences directly related to global climate engineering are considered and quantified, climate intervention programs can and must be considered nothing short of planetary omnicide.
The gravity of what's occurring in our skies, Colonel Macgregor, cannot be overstated. And the public's ambivalence to this, just because they're officially being told it isn't happening, needs to end.
Well, scientists and technologists, engineers on behalf of the United States government on more than one occasion have been less than truthful. So I think Americans are beginning to understand that they've been lied to on more than one occasion. Talk a little bit about what we were discussing earlier in China, what the Chinese did, what happened as a result, whether or not this was malicious or experimental is something we probably don't know, but just run through that for the public.
Certainly, the Chinese government in the past has been more open and transparent about their operations, no longer because of the damage they are doing. But they have openly disclosed that they are engineering winter weather. And this is about to happen in the US this week, a major engineered winter weather scenario. It's not new at all. It's business as usual at this point. But you had Popular Science, ABC, the UK Guardian, NBC. They all covered what China was doing, but yet they won't say a word about what's happening here in the US. China, when they did several $1 billion worth of damage to Beijing by chemically nucleating cloud moisture, which creates frozen precipitation out of what should have been liquid precipitation. And again, the damage done is catastrophic. The population, of course, there's one article. Yeah, then there's many more. And the public did not respond well to that, of course. And the Chinese government's not open about it anymore, but they're continuing to do it on an ever larger scale. In fact, they just massively flash froze areas of Tibet and killed, it's estimated, about 3 million animals, including livestock. And the same thing has happened here in the US. In 2014, we had a flash snowstorm in South Dakota. October 4th, 2014, snow that began to fall at 40 degrees. Why is it snowing at 40 degrees? And as this chemical process continues, it does radically lower surface temperatures. Again, 100,000 cattle died. Flash snowstorm, October 4th, at the same time, and we captured the maps before they were erased offline. At the same time, it was 89 degrees and raining in Kansas City. It was 85 degrees and raining in Chicago. How could you possibly have a flash snowstorm that kills 100,000 cattle with those kinds of conditions? So again, these are patented processes, Colonel Macgregor, and it's about to happen here. That's why you have temperatures in some regions going from 60, 70, 80 degrees back down to frozen temperatures and snow, and it's crushing agriculture, wreaking havoc in the environment.
Now, the question is, are these aircraft that are delivering these aerosols primarily military, or is it a mix of military and commercial, or predominantly commercial?
They're both, and we know that from film footage. So military tanker, of course, can carry massive payloads. We know in the case of a KC-135, they can carry up to a 100-ton payload. Commercial aircraft, much smaller payload, smaller dispersions, but they are being used, and film footage proves this. We have up-close photographs, up-close, very close, of the retrofit nozzles mounted on commercial aircraft wing pylons aimed into the exhaust jet stream. Their aircraft are being used in many cases. We are not implicating, I want to stress this, we are not implicating commercial pilots or personnel. There would be no reason to involve them, but we are communicating with them. Just spoke to one about 4 days ago, and they recognize this is occurring. They're trying to be careful not to lose their employment, but they are circulating Geoengineering Watch printed materials in pilot lunchrooms and so forth to try to raise awareness.
Well, is there any effort at all similar to what's happening in Tennessee on the Hill in Washington? In other words, is anybody remotely interested thus far to the point where we could demand some sort of investigation into the use of U.S. Air Force aircraft? I mean, the C-17 is a brilliant piece of equipment. It's a wonderful aircraft. We're very careful what we do with those because we don't have, quite frankly, enough of them. So why would they use this aircraft? Well, I think it's obvious. The military usually does whatever it's told. And people in the administration, if they're behind this or part of this, would know that they could order this dispersal, order this action, this operation. They probably don't even need to consult with the people at the top of the Air Force. This could be done surreptitiously at other levels, even through other agencies, but the military would execute it. Is there any chance of anybody looking into this in Washington, D.C.?
They definitely are. And we are communicating with them. I got a call at home over the weekend by 2 U.S. congressmen recently that are absolutely aware this is going on. We're supplying them, again, our printed materials, which is being circulated through various circles in D.C. Again, this is a national security issue, classified operation, no question. And when you look through the lens of those that are carrying out these programs, they are not about to let this out if they can stop it, because the liability issues are incalculable. Same goes with other countries. And here's where it gets very interesting, Colonel Macgregor. We know that there is intergovernmental cooperation even between, quote, otherwise adversarial nations. We have a U.S. Senate document 800 pages long posted to geoengineeringwatch.org that specifically cites the intergovernmental cooperation, again, between otherwise adversarial nations, aka China, Russia, US. Whatever their surface tensions and conflicts are, they are absolutely including and cooperating on these operations. It cannot be otherwise. You can't geoengineer over your own country without affecting the entire world.
Well, there's probably also a case of similar agencies or bureaucratic entities inside those governments that are in agreement and doing this. Whether or not everyone actually knows what's happening is another question. We've already seen that in the United States and Europe. I'm sure that's by no means impossible elsewhere. Well, Dane, you've done a lot of brilliant work for a long time on behalf of the American people, and you certainly have my gratitude and the gratitude of everyone who is concerned about our climate and this desire to engineer it. So I thank you, and we will certainly present this on our website and do what we can to support you in getting the information out.
Thank you,
Colonel Macgregor, for taking the time to be with us today.
Thank you, Colonel Macgregor. The same gratitude to you and your team. Without voices like yours that carry credibility and weight, we would not be able to get this information out to the general population. So again, the same gratitude to you and your team, Colonel Macgregor.
Okay. Well, on behalf of OCOC, thanks, and we'll see you soon again.
Thank you.